Starting us off with number 10 is the face. So this is a bit of a wild card, and this was actually my first time seeing this image as well, so I was like, was I living under a rock all this time? Like, how did I not know about this? Either way, back in 1976, NASA's Viking 1 orbiter traveled past Mars and snapped an image that turned everyone's heads for all the wrong reasons. The image shows the surface of the planet, which obviously is a mismatch of elevated and flat surfaces. Now I really don't need to explain what the surface of a planet looks like, you guys already know, but one of the elevated planes looked very much like a face. You can see the eye hollows, a nose, and lips as well, and after this was made public, many people started speculating that the face was an alien crafted monument on Mars. Can we believe that? Can we actually believe that? Which honestly I wouldn't even be surprised about. If they can disguise their headquarters on Earth as an iceberg or under an island, then this wouldn't even be a second thought for them. Like a face on Mars, no biggie. Let's just do that while I sleep. Now however, this one has been semi-debunked because the Mars Global Surveyor took a new picture of the area in 2001, and this one was obviously a lot more HD. In the new picture, the plane looks a lot more blobby and cracked, and there are no facial details whatsoever. But honestly, I feel like in the 70s, aliens were a lot more lax, like they probably thought we'd never figure them out, but like here we are, and now they're like, oh damn, they're advancing quickly. So now they're covering up their tracks, but I don't buy it for a second. We saw what we saw. We can't deny it. You can't hide it. You can run, but you can't hide. Actually, you probably can, because it's not like I'm gonna be up there anytime soon. Lol. We got past it finally. Coming in at number 9 is the bone. Now back in 2014, again I must have been living under a rock that year as well, NASA's Curiosity rover took a chilling image. Now when you first look at it, it's just a pile of rocks, nothing weird, nothing really stands out, but wait. Now right bang in the middle of the photo, there's a really oddly shaped rock, so much so that one could argue it's not a rock at all. Now the rock looks very much like a femur bone from a thigh, which then opens up the can of worms to why the hell is there a bone on a quote-unquote uninhabited planet? Is it a fossilized human femur bone from one of the many people they've abducted and taken back to Mars? Or is it a fossilized alien bone and now we know that they may have similar skeletal structures to us? Like, where did this bone come from? Is it the femur bone of an animal, an extraterrestrial animal? Like, what are we working with here? I need answers. The bone is more crooked than a human femur bone, which are usually more straight, and most skeptics say the bone most likely became that shape due to wind or water erosion, with NASA forever maintaining that the only life on Mars are the microbes and that there isn't enough oxygen for other organisms. But what if it's just housing organisms we haven't studied that don't need oxygen like we do? Caught you there. Take that, NASA. And what? Mic drop. At number 8 we have the Grey Lady. I don't even have to explain what this is by now. Anytime I've said grey, white, or red lady on this channel, you guys know I'm talking about a female ghost, and you guys better damn well know that by now, otherwise like, why even watching? Like, no, I'm kidding. So back in August of 2015, the Mars Curiosity rover captured a picture of some rocky terrain in which someone found an apparition of a grey lady. The shadow or ghost really does look like a woman in a dress just standing amongst the terrain looking at the camera if anything, and I mean last time I checked, ghosts don't need oxygen, so her existence could very much be real. According to scaling, she'd have to be the size of a pebble, so I mean, there's that. But again, we don't know what the effect of lesser gravity is on ghosts, so it could easily miniaturize them, who knows. But also, it could be the ghost of an alien, like we really don't know. All we do know is that the apparition exists. NASA obviously piped in saying everyone gets excited when a rock resembles anything interesting, but like, live a little, NASA. Let us have our time, let us have like our moment with the Grey Lady, like leave us alone. Stop raining on our parade. I know I sound really anti-NASA, but I'm not, it's just jokes, innit? Filling on number 7 slot is the Waffle Island. Now firstly, I didn't even know there were islands on Mars. Like I thought islands were like land masses surrounded by water, but there's no water on Mars, so like what's happening? But maybe I just need to adapt my definitions to make them more galactically appropriate. It's probably my problem. Either way, back in 2014, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter captured a picture of a waffle-shaped island. The misshapen waffle is located in the Athabasca region of Mars and is 1.2 miles wide. It's located in an an area with a lot of lava flow, so the smooth parts around the elevated parts are where the lava flows. Now NASA scientists claim the waffle-like appearance just comes from lava intruding from underneath and pushing the crust upwards, but a complete explanation is yet to be found. And that, my friend, leaves room for us conspiracists to be like, hee. Now personally, I feel like aliens are on Mars and have their homes or headquarters inside the planet, so all these weird land formations on the surface are just their creations under the surface. Who agrees? And also, for the record, if that is meant to be a waffle, it's a looking waffle. I said what I said. Now at number 6 are the marks. So back in 2017, NASA released a picture the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter had taken of the Hellas Planitia, which is basically a plains area inside a huge crater on Mars that's actually deeper than the Grand Canyon, and it's billions of years old, so it's pretty damn cool. Either way, the photo looks like a bunch of squiggly lines or scratch marks all next to each other. NASA explained it as being caused by dry ice breaking up and sliding down the sandy dunes and creating those paths. However, I have my own theory. You know, I'm just trying to get in there. Other than looking like scratch marks, it also low-key looks like a crop field, and crop circles or fields and aliens have always been linked since like the start of time, so A, there's that, and B, maybe the aliens created a crop field to sustain themselves. You don't know. I mean, we don't know what their food situation is. Who knows what they're using it for? Honestly, at this point, who knows? If it's NASA, they're probably gonna say it was because of the wind. So you guys decide, are we just gonna blame everything on the wind? Like, I don't think so. That's unfair. That's not happening. We stand with the wind. Either way, coming in at number 5 is the coffin. So back in 2014, Will Farrer found something in an image taken by NASA's Mars Curiosity rover. Amongst the regular rocky terrain of the planet, there appears to be a coffin-shaped object amongst the rocks. Like, it's very angular and deliberate and doesn't look like an eroded or misshapen rock at all. Now, scale-wise, it's 1 meter long and half a meter wide, and I mean, based on the people we've seen on this list on Mars, they are all quite small. So this coffin size seems to fit quite well, but at the same time, it could easily belong to Dracula or Edward Cullen. It's so gothic looking with its curvature, and it just looks like a regular vampire coffin. So are there alien vampires too? Like, where does the crossbreeding end? Like, if ever? I guess we'll have to stay tuned. And Will Farrer went on to say, we never get told the truth about anything, and I mean, you're not wrong, Will. You're not wrong. At number 4 is the rabbit, and no, that's not even a clickbaity fake title. I don't do fake news, people, I told you before. So back in March of 2004, NASA's Opportunity rover had taken many pictures of Meridiani Planum, which is basically a plane 2 degrees south of Mars's equator, because I know y'all don't know what that is, because neither did I. And can you see how much trouble I'm having with pronouncing these things? It's not a joke, you guys, the struggle is real. Now, one of the pictures shows some rock formations in the back, and in front, isolated on the surface of Mars, is what appears to be a white rabbit. Now, the picture is quite blurry, so it's hard to make out the rest of its body, but you can definitely see the 2 floppy ears standing up, which is evidence enough. The ears even move in the Martian wind, so it definitely isn't a rock, NASA. However, you know NASA always has a clapback, and engineers say it's most likely a bit of soft material that came from one of their vehicles, perhaps some cotton insulation. Well, now I appreciate you offering that explanation, but I'd like to believe it's a bunny, and that's that. Bye. Off you go. Now, filling our number 3 slot is Mars's Bigfoot, and I feel like calling it Bigfoot is a bit of an overstatement, so it's more of like a mini Bigfoot, if you will. So this picture was snapped by the Mars Exploration rover Spirit back in 2007 on the eastern edge of the planet. Now, apparently this Bigfoot picture is actually a Bigfoot-shaped rock, according to NASA. Like, I can't tell if they're trying to punk us or not at this point. Like, not everything is a rock. A rock eroded to look like a femur bone? Fine, I can suspend my disbelief, but a rock eroded to look like Bigfoot? Fool me once, shame on me, but fool me twice, like I'm not a dumbass. Like, now this is actually how psycho we are as a species. So the picture was actually originally a big ass panorama that someone zoomed the hell into and found this Bigfoot. This is how we find everything out, you guys. This is how. We go in there. But the peculiar thing is that the Spirit takes black and white pictures, so for it to take a colored photo like this one, it has to take the picture 3 times with a few minutes in between to put the colored lenses over the camera. So unless Bigfoot was moving 1 millimeter at a time, things become more sus. From analytics, the creature seems to be 6 centimeters tall, so when I say he's mini, I mean he's mini. I'm finally taller than someone, I'm so happy about this. I am the Bigfoot of Mars. Now at number 2 is Marshenge, like Stonehenge, but not. So the high-rise Mars orbiter found something that sent everyone into a frenzy. The original image is a massive panoramic image of a large bit of terrain from a bird's eye view. Now when you zoom in, you can see very clearly a circle of rocks on an elevated circular mound. It stands out compared to everything else in the picture, and it makes you think if aliens really did build it to be their Stonehenge. We've never gotten to the bottom of why Stonehenge was created, and I doubt we'll ever get to the bottom of why Marshenge was created either. Was it made as an ancient Martian burial ground? If the stars align, will it spawn the king of aliens in the middle of the circle? Like what are we meant to expect from Marshenge? Whatever it is, I'm glad NASA can't tell us it's because of erosion. Miss me with the BS. This whole video is BS! No, the content is all factual, I'm just BS. And finally, at number 1 is the skulls. So last year, UFO hunter and space journalist Joe White was analyzing pictures taken from NASA's Mars Curiosity rover and came across something horrific. Now amongst a bunch of rock formations, Joe spotted what literally is a fossilized skull, like no joke. Like you can see the jawbone, the eye socket, you can even make out some teeth as well, like it's all very clear. Like we have the dental records, people, let's identify this mofo, you guys. I'll go up there and do it myself. Now scale wise, the skull is about 2 feet, so whoever's body that belonged to would have had to be at least 15 feet tall. Skeptics say it could just be a weird rock encrusted in mud and then dried out, but like really? Are we gonna listen to skeptics at this point? Like look at the image for yourself in color, it is very much a skull and you can't deny that. What do you guys think? Does it belong to our alien brethren, the Martians we haven't seen yet? What is the story behind the skull? Let me know.
So starting off this list strong, in at number 10, let's talk about the 1954 meteorite that fell from space and it actually hit someone. This right here is Anne Elizabeth Fowler Hodges. She became a part of history when she survived being struck by a fragment of a meteorite. I mean, how many people can say that? The Sylacauga meteorite is the first documented extraterrestrial object to have injured a human being. So let me tell you guys what happened. A piece of this meteorite crashed through the roof of a farmhouse located in Alabama, and it bounced off a large wooden console radio, and then it hit Hodges while she was napping on the couch. Imagine like that's how you woke up. You woke up by being hit by a piece of meteorite that came from outer space. This made headline news, and I was looking into what happened to that meteorite because maybe that woman can sell it and become super rich. I'm not exactly sure on how much they sell for, but probably a lot, right? But this meteorite was actually confiscated by the police, who turned it over to the United States Air Force. So yeah, this woman lucked out. I don't know why she wasn't able to keep it. Moving into number 9, we have the Roswell UFO incident that took place in 1947. Take a look at this. This came crashing down to Earth, and if you search this into Google, you can find these images as well. Clearly looks like an alien, and also you can see more UFO pictures. Can this really be a UFO crash site? Well, there are obviously many conspiracy theories around this crash because the US military stated that it is a United States Army Air Force balloon crash, while others say that this might be one huge cover-up and it's actually an alien spacecraft. What do you guys believe? I'm going with it might be an alien spacecraft. And at number 8, we have a piece of the moon. It's always scarier taking pieces of the moon because you just never know what type of airborne bacteria can live on it. There was actually a lunar meteorite found in northern Africa not too long ago, and just a tiny piece of it sold for more than $600,000. Imagine a piece of the moon just fell into your backyard, making you instantly a millionaire. There hasn't been a long-term human exposure to the lunar environment, but apparently the exposure to lunar dust can actually result in severe health risks from direct exposure or exposure from over time. So saying that, whoever owns a piece of the moon, hopefully they're keeping it well contaminated. Alright, number 7, you guys saw it in the intro of this video, you saw a little clip of it, but let's talk about the 2017, which was not too long ago. Well, I'm talking about the discovery of the Oumuamua, which was the first interstellar object ever detected in our solar system. Oumuamua, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. Probably not, but in Hawaiian, it actually translates to first-time visitor from far away. Of course, when this object was made public, millions of people questioned, is it aliens? Others ask, where did it come from, or what does this mean for us? Could this be an invasion on Earth? Well, scientists from Harvard University believe yes. This could actually be signs of alien civilization. When you hear about a bold claim like that, coming from Harvard scientists, it actually makes you wonder. When Oumuamua traveled through our solar system, it actually didn't travel on a normal path. And as you know, as normal objects would travel in, and it's usually due to the sun's gravity, but instead it made its own path. So it makes us think maybe this thing was powered by some sort of thrusters. So it could be plausible that it was a spacecraft. Number 6, we have a satellite that fell to Earth. Have you guys heard the story of the Cosmos 954? Well, me neither. I had to do the research for this one. Well, back January 24th in 1978, a Soviet satellite malfunctioned, which prevented a safe separation of its onboard nuclear reactor, so pieces of the Cosmos entered Earth, shattering around northern Canada. Now, this is pretty messed up. Luckily, no one was killed by this. Just imagine if like North Korean satellite crashed on American soil. I mean, that might spark World War III. So there's actually a law that everyone has to follow when it comes to space. So under the terms of the 1972 Space Liability Convention, whoever launched an object into outer space is liable for damages caused by that object. So saying that, the Canadian government billed the Soviet Union over $6 million for the cost of the cleanup and also for additional compensation for future unpredicted expenses. But the USSR paid just $3 million. From a failed USSR satellite to something that you would never expect coming from space, or should I say you wouldn't expect someone coming from space. An alien? Well, at number 5, let me introduce you guys to Fearless Felix, who is not an alien. He's just a crazy person.
Jumper away. Speed 725. Showing Felix in a stable.
Is this real life right now? That is absolutely insane. Why? I have been skydiving, but I jumped from like 8 to 10,000 feet. Felix jumped from over 128,000 feet. This guy is absolutely nuts. I think this guy almost reached the moon. Okay, maybe not quite. This guy wasn't inside of Earth and when he jumped, but luckily for him, it was a huge success. Okay, let me take you guys over to Mongolia, in at number 4. There was this 2-ton object that crashed to the Earth near the Mongolian capital back in 2019. This object was added to the MUFON Witness database, which is actually the UFO Network database. I didn't know there was a UFO database. How many aliens are on it? So people are actually believing this foreign object might be a UFO. The object looks like it has a rocket or a jet engine. It seems like the object came crashing down in a field of cows and no one knows what it is. On Reddit, people believed that it might be a hydrogen tank, and a lot of people think that this picture might actually be fake because one person pointed out, where's the crater that a heavy and large object would create? I mean, that is a pretty valid point. It's time to time travel for a sec, in at number 3. Let me take you guys back like 80,000 years ago. I know it's a long time. And let's talk about the Huba meteorite that came crashing down on Earth. It wasn't until 1920 when a farmer found it on his field. Well, this thing weighs 60 tons, and it is known to be the largest known meteorite to be found. Today, it has been turned into a national monument, so now it's a great tourist attraction. Moving into number 2, let's talk about the meteorite that changed the history on Earth, like literally. More specifically, well, let's talk about the massive meteorite that might have been responsible for the extinction of the dinosaurs. If you guys don't believe this theory, what wiped out the dinosaurs, let me know in the comment section below and be as stupid as you guys want. I'll see what you guys type down there. Okay, that asteroid that you guys saw must have been huge if it left no dinosaurs behind. It is believed that the asteroid or comet was about 11 to 81 kilometers long, which is super massive. Finally, number 1, I saved the scariest for last. NASA actually predicts that in 2023, there's going to be an asteroid that is on a collision course with Earth that can do some pretty serious damage. The asteroid is twice the size of Big Ben, and I looked up Big Ben, and Big Ben is massive. And then imagine Big Ben, and then times it by 2, and then adding like fire all around it. That can ruin a whole city. Imagine if that hit like a dense city like New York, or what about if it hit like Shanghai, China? A population of over 24 million people. That can wipe out everyone. My biggest question right now is how accurate is NASA? I'm hoping that they're not too accurate. But then again, if NASA wasn't accurate, I don't know if that would be more scarier.
Number 10, alien doorway. So obviously we know that no people have actually landed on Mars and had a look around, at least that we know of. So the majority of this list is from things seen on Mars rover photos, and some of them aren't actually scary and are more like just hilarious or conspiratorial, but give me a break, I've had a long day, okay. The first image on this list comes from May of this year from the Curiosity rover. The image appears to show an entrance hidden into the side of some Martian rocks. Many people started theorizing that this could have been some sort of door to a hidden alien building underground. The perfect shaping of the hole led many people to believe that it must be something man-made or even alien-made. The naysayers decided that it was caused by a rock breaking off due to an earthquake, but what kind of rock would break off and just leave like a perfect hole like that? So I'm gonna go with aliens. Number 9, the hole. Speaking of holes, in 2017 the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter took a picture that revealed a massive unexplained hole on the surface of the red planet. The orbiter has been going around the planet for the past 16 years and sends photos of the planet back for NASA to analyze, and this one definitely caught them off guard. Mars is covered in various different holes and indentations, but this massive pit really stood out against the rest of the planet's landscape. In real size, the hole is hundreds of meters in diameter and appears to have ice at the bottom of it. The surrounding ground apparently covered in patches of frozen carbon dioxide. NASA really had no explanation for how this hole occurred, and they put a team together to try and work out what might have caused it. But don't worry NASA, you don't need a team, because I am a self-titled extraterrestrial professional, and I say that it's a pool that aliens use for alien Olympic swimming competitions. Number 8, Morse code. This same orbiter sent back another interesting picture of the surface the year before in 2016. This time the surface seemed to be trying to send us a message. The marks on the ground appeared to form dashes and dots which formed into a Morse code message. The long markings in the soil were on the inside of an impact crater in an area known as the Hagel Dune Field. Many people started theorizing that this could potentially be a massive sign that aliens live on Mars and are trying to communicate by what could effectively be compared to a massive SOS sign on a beach. I don't know when I decided I was going to make this video all about aliens, but there's really no going back now. So what are they trying to say to us? What message could be so important that they had to carve it into the side of a planet? Okay, it doesn't make much sense to us. This is clearly communication in a Martian language that we just don't know yet. Number 7, Martian face. In 1976, NASA's Viking 1 spacecraft was circling around Mars and taking photos of the surface in an attempt to find a good spot to land for its sister ship, the Viking 2. During its journey, they managed to photograph what appears to be a massive Martian face sticking out of the side of the planet, almost 2 miles long from end to end. It's in a region of the planet that is called Cydonia, and until now I didn't even know that the regions on Mars had names. Scientists released the photo to the public a few days later, claiming that it was just a rock formation, saying, "A huge rock formation which resembles a human head, formed by shadows giving the illusion of eyes, nose, and mouth." But that's just what they want you to think. My degree in alienology tells me that this is actually a Martian equivalent of the Maui statues, clearly a recreation of the aliens that reside on the planet. Number 6, floating spoon. In 2015, the Mars Curiosity rover picked up another interesting and potentially alien thing amidst the rocks and dust. On August 30th, 2015, on the rover's 1089th day on Mars, it photographed what appears to be a massive floating spoon, a large handle shape extending from the rocks and ending in what appears to resemble a curved end of a spoon. NASA, of course, wants us to think that this spoon formation was caused by the wind breaking away at the rocks and leaving this shape behind. But I am here to tell you that this is actually the remnants of a Martian kitchen. Me and the other people on obscure internet forums are looking forward to the day that we find the fork and knife to complete the full set. And maybe the massive unexplained Mars hole is actually just a big plate. Number 5, ghost. On this channel, we often look at blurry images that appear to show some kind of ghost or demon lurking in the background. But this one is a bit different than those because this one, of course, comes from Mars, so there's a bit more of a valid excuse for the image to not be of the best quality. This black and white image from the Mars rover appears to show another barren landscape of rocks and dust. Pretty typical for Mars, it honestly seems like kind of a boring place. But near the right corner of the image, you can see what appears to be the figure of a ghostly woman standing on top of one of the large rocks. To me, it looks like she's wearing a dress and, kind of standing with her arm like this or something, and she's got long dark hair. Others online said that the figure reminded them of a weeping angel creature from Doctor Who. No matter what you think, it's pretty creepy to look at and doesn't seem as easily explained away as any of the others. Number 4. Space Crab. In 2015, the Mars rover sent back this image of a rocky cliff on the surface of Mars, and like the last, it seems pretty ordinary at a first glance. But when you zoom in to the right side of the image, you can see what appears to be some sort of orange, horrific alien crab spider monster, and it honestly makes my skin itch just looking at it. People online were going crazy and asking NASA to send some sort of mission out to try and figure out what this creature is, because you can tell there's nothing else that even resembles it in the surrounding area or in other photos we've seen of the planet. One scientist brushed it off, saying that they see images like this about once a week. And all I have to say, are there really that many spider space crabs on Mars they see them once a week? Like the last one, NASA doesn't seem to offer up any sort of quick explanation, instead just saying, there's no crab, you're crazy. Well, NASA, you may be correct, but if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Number 3. Dust devils. Alright, let's take a quick break from the crazy and talk about something that has been scientifically explained, but is still just a horrifying concept that I hope I never have to personally experience. This image of a Mars landscape taken in 2016 reveals what appears to be a long vertical column. This is actually known as a Martian dust devil. These occur on Earth as well, but they're usually pretty short-lived and harmless. They're caused when the wind creates what is basically a small little tornado of dirt and sand, but the ones on Mars are a whole lot scarier. They're estimated to be able to grow to the size of about 10 times the size of an average Earth tornado and spin around at about 70 miles per hour, or 112 kilometers per hour for us Canadians. While the winds apparently wouldn't bother you that much, the sand hitting you in the face and tearing apart your spacesuit would be a pretty big issue. Oh, and also you'll probably be struck by a bunch of miniature lightning bolts too. Number 2. Alien fungus. Alright, right back into the crazy. This image was taken by the Mars rover Opportunity in the year 2014, and just like most of the Mars photos we've seen, it's a bunch of rocks and dust. But wait, there's more. People noticed in the bottom left and middle of this image that there appears to be some sort of a more brightly colored object. It's dark red in the middle and white along the outside, which led people to start nicknaming it the Mars Jelly Donut. Theorists took to the internet to share their own opinions about what they believe the suddenly appearing formation to be. It is of course an alien fungus that somehow managed to grow on the surface of Mars. The truth of the situation that NASA shared is that it's apparently two pieces of a rock that the Mars rover drove over top of and managed to split in two. One of the pieces rolling down the hill to where it rests in the bottom left of the image. Number 1. Barack Obama. Ex-United States President Barack Obama is a Martian and actually lives on Mars. Of course. This panoramic image was taken from the summit of a place on Mars called Husband Hill and was snapped back in 2005 by NASA's Spirit rover. The picture was taken over the course of 3 days to provide, quote, a level of clarity that is unequaled in the history of Mars exploration. This high level of clarity allowed us to see the truth of what's hiding on Mars. People pointed out the fact that there was a rock that seemed to be in the exact shape of Barack Obama's head. At first glance, I really didn't see it, but once you look at it for longer, it really becomes uncanny. Obama has previously said in interviews that he would really like to see humans fly out and live on Mars, so here's my theory. He traveled back in time, taking a space rocket with him, went to Mars, became king of Mars where they built a statue of him, and years later NASA took a picture of the eroded statue in 2005, which I believe is definitely the easiest explanation.
Starting off this countdown, we have the butt crack rock. This has to be the funniest thing found on Mars. But basically, in February of 2021, NASA's Perseverance rover was on the planet taking photos. That's when it took a photo of a plump rock with a crack running down it. And immediately, people started making jokes saying that the rock looks like a big old butt crack. In fact, it started when software engineer Kevin Gill saw the rock, tweeted a picture of it, and called it the butt crack rock. From there, it kind of just, snowballed. Glad to see, though, that people still have a good sense of humor. For that alone, this man deserves a raise. Like, not all heroes wear capes. In our 9th spot today, we have the giant spoon. Don't worry, when Elon Musk sends us to Mars, you won't have to pack your cutlery. Why? Well, Mars has a number of giant spoons. Let me explain. In 2015, Mars's Curiosity rover discovered what appeared to be a large floating spoon on Mars. Later on, they found another spoon, but this time it wasn't floating and it was much smaller. Unfortunately, it's not actually a spoon, but just rocks that happen to look eerily exactly like one. Either way, it's still pretty weird. Coming in at number 8, we have the blueberries. And no, the tiny small blue fruit were not found on Mars. Blueberries is the name given to these tiny little spheres found on Mars. In 2004, the Mars Opportunity rover spotted these small spheres near the Fram crater. They are about 1 to 2 inches across, so they're about the size of actual blueberries. On top of that, they do have a blue hue to them. Now, these things are weird for a number of reasons. One, the blueberries found within the soil are smaller than the ones found in the outcrops. Why? We don't know. And 2, the size of the blueberries also decrease with decreasing latitude. Why? Again, we don't know. They also don't have any idea what caused them to form these perfect round spheres. Obviously, they have some theories, but they have never been proven. In our 7th spot today, we have the collection of spheres. Now, don't be fooled, these are different than the little blueberry spheres that I just finished talking about. These were discovered in 2012 at an outcrop named Kirkwood. Basically, they look like a bunch of blister-like bumps on the ground. These are even more mysterious than the blueberries, though. In fact, rover mission principal investigator Steve Squires said, and I quote, "This is one of the most extraordinary pictures from the whole mission. Kirkwood is chock full of a dense accumulation of these small spherical objects. Of course, we immediately thought of the blueberries, but this is something different. We never have seen such a dense accumulation of spherules in a rock outcrop on Mars. And again, they don't know what these are or what caused their formation. According to NASA, these spheres are different than the blueberries in a number of ways. They differ in concentration, distribution, and structure. That's why they call this collection so puzzling." Moving on to number 6, we have the meteorite. On January 6, 2005, the Opportunity rover found a basketball-sized meteorite on Mars. This is said to be the first meteorite ever discovered on another planet. Upon further investigation, they found that the meteorite was composed of iron and nickel. Now, here's the thing. This find was alarming for a number of reasons. One, according to Steve Squires, and I quote, "Mars should be hit by a lot more rocky meteorites than iron meteorites." Continuing on, he said, "We haven't really thought much about meteorites until now, but this discovery has really opened our eyes to the question. It was a huge surprise. Even NASA workers were baffled by this finding. And now they're doing more investigation on Mars and meteorites. In the end, this can help us learn more about space." We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the plastic. It's bad enough that we have already polluted one planet with plastic and garbage, but it looks like we're already starting to pollute another as well. So when the Curiosity rover first landed on Mars, they found a piece of plastic on the surface and were like, what the hell? It literally confused NASA. They were like, nah, this can't be plastic wrap, but it was. And the explanation on how it got there is pretty lame, sorry. And it's not really a mysterious one. But basically the plastic came from the rover itself. A piece of wrap from a cable came loose during landing. But like I said before, let's not pollute another planet. Plastic definitely does not belong on another planet or in space at all, for that fact. Coming in at number 4, we have the face on Mars. Now this is probably the creepiest thing ever found on Mars. It was discovered in 1976 when NASA's Viking 1 orbiter flew by Mars. It was taking photos and managed to take a photo of what appears to be a face on Mars. Like, it straight up has 2 evil dark eyes, a nose, and a mouth. People think that maybe this is an alien-built monument on Mars to worship an alien god. But of course, NASA just says it naturally formed due to erosion. Either way, it's hella creepy. Coming in at number 3, we have the thigh bone. This one is another pretty creepy one, not gonna lie. Back in 2014, NASA's Curiosity rover sent back multiple photos to Earth. In one of the photos, there seemed to be something sticking out of a collection of rocks, half buried in the dust. Zooming in, it looks like a freaking femur bone from a human thigh, which is scary for a number of reasons. 1, why is there a human bone on Mars? Number 2, what happened to the person that the bone belonged to? Then people were like, whoa, what if it's an alien bone? Especially since it's more crooked than straight like a human femur is. So people were like, yeah, that has to be from an alien. Well, it turns out that upon further investigation, the bone is none other than a rock, and not Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Get it? Scientists claim that the shape was created through erosion by wind or water. I know, very anticlimactic. But that doesn't stop people from thinking it's still a real bone. I mean, for all we know, NASA could be lying to us, just saying. Moving on to number 2, we have the ancient god. In 2015, NASA's Mars Opportunity rover took this picture. It was then uploaded on the Mars's exploration website. Upon closer inspection, people thought that one of the rocks in the photo had a weird design carved into it. In fact, they claimed that it looked like an ancient god's head. I mean, I can see it. The rock has a full-on wavy beard and everything. To UFO enthusiasts, this was more evidence that aliens live on Mars and are carving sculptures and busts of people that they worship. And in our number 1 spot, we have the person. In 2007, people went nuts when the Spirit rover snapped this eerie photo on the planet. It appears to be a human-like figure perched up on a rock. NASA immediately denied this and said, it's just a rock, people, calm down. But that didn't stop UFO enthusiasts. They believe that this rock is actually a statue of a female figure made by aliens. Maybe this is a god that the aliens bow down to. Not gonna lie, it eerily does look like a female. And that's not the only time a person has been spotted on Mars. They also captured this image as well, which literally looks like an eerie ghostly woman walking on Mars. Like, that one is too creepy. Like, you can't look at that and tell me it's just a rock. I don't believe it. Nice try, NASA. Alright guys, that's all for today's video. Let me know in the comments below which one of these weird objects creeped you out the most. Honestly, that woman on Mars, just saying, it looks like a woman and not a rock. And now let's move on to our comment shout out portion. I'll be shouting out comments from the video, top 10 terrifying signals from space that should have been kept a secret part 4. Michelle Wilt commented, insert random funny comment here. Haha, ha 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 ha. Michelle Wilt, more like Michelle Wilt not comment a funny comment. I'm just gonna stop, sorry. Memecraft commented, I think aliens made pyramids of Egypt. Honestly, a lot of people believe that. When I was younger, I believed that. It's insane. It's insane. B Chan Art commented, can't we have a full soundtrack of each planet? Need to listen to space as I sleep and believe I am in space. Honestly, that kind of sounds sick. Minus the soundtrack of Earth. It would just be like cars honking, wind blowing, people screaming, I don't know, people yelling, like it would not be good. But the other ones, cool, I'm down for it. Some of them sound really scary though. Like, did you hear Jupiter? It's like, rah, rah. Couldn't fall asleep to that, I'd be paranoid.
Now, number 10, a Pluto slug. Some people say Pluto isn't a planet or just a main planet anymore, just a dwarf planet. And to that, I say, no, Pluto is a real planet in my heart, okay? Anyways, on to what really matters. In 2016, NASA's New Horizons spacecraft got some nice pics of an icy region on Pluto's surface. If you look at the picture, there's like a little black formation in the center, and behind it is a trail. So it looks like a little slug has been making its way across the icy terrain, carving its own little path, making its way through this just desolate space. No, okay, I'm not crying because it's actually a slug, because it probably isn't. The scientists are saying it's likely a dirty block of water ice floating in a denser solid of nitrogen, so not a slug, but like it looks like it. It still is a mystery on what exactly it is, because that's more a hypothesis, you could say, but it's probably not a slug. But it doesn't stop me from thinking, like, doesn't that sound like a nice children's book or something? The slug on Pluto. It'd be so cute. That's all I'm thinking. On to number 9. The Mars Spoon? Question mark? So this is a much closer planet than Pluto, who is still a planet in my heart. So this is Mars. So on a photo captured by the beloved NASA Curiosity rover, you can see what looks like a spoon, possibly? Like, it looks like a spoon, honestly. There's a handle, check. Mini concave element on the end of the handle, also check. Yes, it just looks like it's covered in dust because it's on the surface of Mars, which is, you know, a red, dusty planet, but spoon, nonetheless. This was spotted by a YouTube user called UFO Hunter, which led to more people kind of agreeing and being like, yeah, it looks kind of like a spoon. From then on, more people were questioning, just like, yo, where did this spoon come from? Was a Martian eating an ice cream sundae before an entire Martian race was just wiped out? And so that's kind of what UFO Hunter was thinking, saying it may be left over from a lost civilization, but we could just be projecting our ideas onto a clump of space dust, honestly. What if it's one of those things where you just touch it and it crumbles? Could be. I don't know. At number 8, fish rock. Is this another thing we could just be projecting? This fish-looking thing spotted on Mars is probably just a rock, but we gotta remember, Mars once had an ocean even bigger than the Arctic Ocean. And even if it could be a rock, and probably is a rock, look at the similarities to a fish. An upturned nose, a fin, and even a finned tail too. Have I ever caught a fish? No. And have I tried? Yes, but if I did catch one, I bet it would look like this, and I bet it would also be a rock that I was trying to convince people was a fish, but let's move on to number 7, face on Jupiter. So yes, let's hop on over to another planet, our big one in our solar system, the big old gas giant Jupiter. And now this image shows what looks like a derpy looking face on the gas giant. It even has a lovely name. Wait for it. Jovi McJupiter face. Very nice, very cute. So this face was awarded that beautiful name by Jason Major, a citizen scientist who rotated a photo that NASA took. Now, NASA's Juno spacecraft sent down an unaltered photo, and Major was like, nah. Let's interpret these two storms as eyes and the wider swirling red part as a mouth, which is genius. Now, Jovi McJupiter face obviously shows we can see the beauty and art in anything, in nature and life. So now, the next section that we're going to be talking about is staying within the realm of our solar system, but going in a little closer, a little smaller. So let's take a peek at the moons we have. So at number 6, we have Ravioli Moon. This delectable little treat of a moon is one of Saturn's moons. Its name is Pan, and yes, it looks like a little treat of ravioli. And ravioli gets tossed in a pan with butter or oil, right? Does that blend the two names together enough for you? Connections. Fun. Anyways, the reason it looks like the pasta is because material from Saturn's rings falls onto Pan's equator, and the buildup results in the really unique buildup on the equator that makes me think, you know, ravioli. But maybe if you don't have food on the brain, you may think Pan looks more like a flying saucer, and in that case, right on. But for me, ravioli. On to number 5, Death Star Moon. The second and last of our honorable moon mentions is Mimas, or Mimas, aka the Death Star Moon. Now this is another of Saturn's many moons, and this one garners a few more eyes because of its similarities to the Death Star from Star Wars. And you know, the big dish on the Death Star? Boom, big crater on Mimas. Is this really the Death Star in disguise? Probably not, since it's been orbiting Saturn for a bit, plus that idea was mainly for a fictional universe. Also mainly, this moon is really big. So Mimas is 396 kilometers in diameter, and the first Death Star and second Death Star were both between 160 and 140 kilometers in diameter. So if you're thinking, yeah, but what about the third Death Star? Well, that one's too big, measuring about 900 kilometers in diameter, so it's not that one either. So it's not the Death Star in disguise, so you can, you know, exhale and breathe a little bit. But it is a cool looking moon, so yep. Okay, so next up is not only out of this world, but also out of this solar system. The next 3 we have are nebulas, which, if you don't know, are super cool on their own, even if they don't look like anything in particular, but these next 3 have the added X factor of looking just really cool. At number 4, we have Horsehead Nebula. So this first nebula we're looking at was captured by the Hubble Space Telescope back in 2013. The stunning nebula got the nickname Horsehead Nebula because of its looks. Think back to cloud watching when you were younger and seeing the shapes in them, and you can see that this nebula looks like the head and neck of a horse in this image with the nose of the horse facing the left. And unfortunately, we can't pay this little horsey a visit because it's about 1,500 light years away from the Orion constellation. And for reference, Orion's constellation is 243 to 1,360 light years away from us, so little ways away, but you can still admire it for its beautiful looks. This next one, number 3, is space crab. And so this one is quite a ways further. It's about 6,500 light years away from Earth, and it's the Crab Nebula. Now, let's look a bit more at this 5-layered composite image of this bad boy. So the composite image, it looks like something out of a movie. 1, stunning. And then again, 2, the colors, magnificent, such range. Do I sound like I'm impersonating Jonathan Van Ness? Yes. It looks like an artist made it. It's beautiful. And yes, this nebula is called the Crab Nebula because the range of its legs, so it said, but others have also compared these outstretchings to an octopus's tentacles. And so if you're having a hard time seeing these legs or arms that I'm talking about, look mainly at the pink sections and a little bit at the yellow, and I find it helps you paint a picture of what you're looking at. I am the nebula. On to another nebula, the Twin Jet Nebula, also known as a space butterfly. So this cosmic butterfly looking thing is actually a 2-lobed nebula. It has the official name PNM2-9, and it was originally spotted back in 1947. It's more commonly known as the Twin Jet Nebula because really it looks like 2 jets coming out of the back of a rocket ship colliding into one another, and then the blasts radiating outwards. I feel like you could even argue it's 2 pop bottles head to head shrouded in like a green atmosphere. But then if you look right in the center, I say it looks like a fairy from Legend of Zelda, which looks a bit like a butterfly. So that's where you get the name Cosmic Butterfly. Mystery solved. The Twin Jet Nebula is obviously a fairy from Legend of Zelda. You're welcome. So our number 1 is the D&D asteroid. And obviously this one is my number 1 because I am a gamer. A tabletop role-playing gamer, that is. Asteroid 2017 BQ6 has been compared to dice used in playing Dungeons & Dragons and also other tabletop games because of its angular shape. And you kind of have to know that this is kind of odd because most planets and stuff around space is rounded. Kind of looks like a bunch of either spheres or just potatoes passing through. And so this asteroid passed from a distance of about 1.6 million miles away, but it didn't, land anywhere like dice usually do. And like, if you think about it, there's already enough people thinking we are living in a simulation. But guys, what if we live in a game? One of their dice in the great unknown fell into space, and now they're laughing at us because we rolled a natural 1 on perception. A simulation game. You're thinking The Sims, I'm thinking they're just dictating each of our lives with dice rolls. It's all up to random. Who knows?
Scientists have discovered a giant river of raspberry flavored rum. Well, not exactly. The Sagittarius B2 is a giant molecular cloud of gas and dust that is located near the Milky Way. This cloud contains ethanol, vinyl alcohol, and methanol. These molecules from ethanol formate, which is a chemical that is said to smell like rum, and it is also the same chemical that gives raspberries their flavor. Alcohol is an organic compound, so if scientists could learn more about how these clouds manage to form in space, they might be able to figure out how life formed. Moving further up this list, at number 9, we have a water reservoir. Astronomers have discovered the largest and furthest reservoir of water ever detected in the universe. The water is equivalent to 140 trillion times of the water in the world's ocean, and it surrounds a huge black hole more than 12 billion light years away. The water reservoir is said to be 100,000 times more massive than the sun. Also making it onto this list at number 8, we're talking about the Diamond Planet. There is a research that suggests that a massive planet is made out of a large part of diamonds. Planet 55 Cancri E is twice the size of Earth, and it is rich in carbon that holds at least 3 times our planet's mass in diamonds. On 55 Cancri E, the surface is covered in graphite with diamonds pushing through the layers from underneath. I mean, wow, can you guys imagine how much this planet would be worth here on Earth? The Pillars of Creation makes it onto this list at number 7. This was a photograph that was taken by Hubble Space Telescope of interstellar gas and dust in Eagle Nubella, about 7,000 light years away from Earth. This photograph reveals the star forming process. So basically, the red coloring reveals ionized sulfur, the blue shows double ionized oxygen, and the green highlights hydrogen. So these pillars are basically seeds of new stars, which is pretty cool if you ask me. Making our way to number 6, let's talk about the freezing star. While most of the known stars are very hot, there has been a cold star discovered quite recently. It was formerly known as Y0855-0714. The freezing star is a brown dwarf featuring temperatures between -55 to 8 Fahrenheit, which is about -48 to -13 degrees Celsius. Coming into number 5, we have the star that is 1,500 times bigger than our sun. This star is VY Canis Majoris. It is a red hypergiant roughly 1.7 billion miles in diameter, which means that it is so big that it takes about 8 hours for its own light to travel from one side to the other. It is located 4,900 light years away, so scientists haven't actually had the chance to study the stars properly. Make a wish, because at number 4 we have shooting stars. I think I just saw one. So just to recap, everyone should know that shooting stars are meteors entering the atmosphere. Well, what some people don't know is that real shooting stars exist, but they are called hypervelocity stars. These are big fiery balls of gas rocketing through space at millions of miles per hour. So when a binary star system enters a black hole at the center of the galaxy, one of the two stars is consumed, while the other is ejected at high speed. Imagine this, a huge ball of gas 4 times the size of our sun and jolting out from our galaxy at a million miles an hour. Beware, because at number 3 we have the planet from hell. Seriously, the planet Gliese 581c wants to kill you. I'm actually not kidding. This planet orbits a red dwarf star, which is smaller than our sun, with a luminosity of only 1.3% of our sun. This means the planet is closer to its star than we are to ours. Because of this, one side of the planet is always facing the star, and the other side is always facing away. The position of this planet results in some pretty odd things. So if you were to step onto the star side of the planet, you would immediately melt your face. Whereas if you sat on the opposite side, you would freeze instantly. We're almost at the top of this list, but coming in number 2 spot, we have this universe's largest electrical current. So only just a few years ago, scientists stumbled upon electrical current that is roughly 1 trillion lightning bolts. The lightning is thought to originate from an enormous black hole in the center of the galaxy. Apparently the black hole's huge magnetic field allows it to fire up this lightning bolt through gas and dust to a distance of over 150,000 light years away. Okay, so we're now at the number 1 spot, and we're talking about black holes. A black hole is a place in space where gravity pulls so much that even light can't escape. The gravity is so strong because matter has been squeezed into such a tiny space. This can also happen when a star is dying, because light cannot get out. People are unable to see black holes. They're actually invisible. However, there are certain space telescopes that are designed to help find black holes. Black holes still remain a mystery because scientists are unable to examine the interior of a black hole. We do know for certain to stay away from the event horizon, which is the border of the black hole. It's referred to as the point of no return.
Starting off our list at our number 10 spot, we have the beginning. Let's start at the beginning of when we began to speculate that there may be life on Mars. If you didn't know, Mars has polar ice caps, and those were first discovered in the 17th century. In the late 18th century, a scientist named William Herschel proved that the ice caps grew and shrunk, but were alternating based on the summer and winter each hemisphere was in. From there, astronomers began to realize all of the other similarities that Mars has to Earth, such as a very similar length of day, a similar axial tilt, and the fact that Mars was clearly experiencing seasons, albeit twice the length of Earth's. This all led scientists to speculate that there may be alien life living on the planet because it has all of these similarities to our incredibly hospitable Earth. Maybe Mars would be equally as great of a host for life. Way back then, it was theorized that there may possibly be advanced alien life, which we now know is not the case, but that doesn't mean that there is no alien life at all, or that life on Mars never existed. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Viking 1. We can now move along to the first lander on Mars, which occurred in 1976 and was NASA's Viking 1 lander. This was a huge step in the process of exploring and searching for life on Mars, and it all started with the search for water, specifically liquid water. Water has been found on other planets in our solar system, but it is not normally found in liquid form due to the extreme environments and atmospheres that exist in space and on other planets. The Viking 1 was able to give us pretty solid evidence that led scientists to believe that there had once been liquid water on Mars, and it seemed as though it had rained. While Mars certainly isn't currently a planet that would be hospitable to human life, what the Viking 1 gave researchers was evidence that the planet probably once was very hospitable for life, and the rain would mean that the planet once had a thicker atmosphere, which means that while it may not be currently holding life, there is the possibility that it once was, and may even still in the smallest, earliest way. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Martian elements. Another thing that the Viking 1 was able to prove to scientists, other than the existence of the ancient riverbeds and the evidence of vast flooding, was that the planet held all of the elements that are essential for us to live here on Earth. These elements are the ones like carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus, just to name a few. This is of course a huge step because discoveries like these give scientists the ability to decide on what the next steps would be in the search for life. After this discovery, the Viking landers were able to perform some experiments on the Martian soil, which did end up leading to some controversial results. The soil sample did test positive for metabolism, which most definitely could be a positive sign of some sort of microorganism life, but there are also other reasons which could be responsible for this positive test. While it would be nice to just jump to the conclusion that we've successfully found life on Mars, it is imperative that our scientists remain skeptical and don't take this one experiment as a sure sign. In our number 7 spot today, we have ALH 84001. On December 27th, 1984, a piece of Mars was actually found on Earth. This meteorite was found in the Allen Hills in Antarctica, and it is believed that it started off on Mars, of course, and was thought to have crystallized from molten rock around 4 billion years ago. Scientists believe that it came barreling to Earth after an ancient collision, only to be found by some American meteor hunters. The rock was named ALH 84001 and it weighed around 4 pounds, and of course testing was done on it immediately because this is believed to be the oldest Martian rock we have ever found on Earth. In 1996, while scientists were looking into the rock, they found structures in the meteorite that seemed similar to what would be formed by microbes, as well as the presence of organic materials. There have, like many other potential signs of life on Mars, been scientists who have come up with other possible explanations for the structures that were found, and there are some scientists who believe that the organic material came from contamination with Earth materials, but truthfully, either theory could be correct. In our number 6 spot today, we have Curiosity. Now we are back on Mars with the Curiosity rover and its major discovery. Well, we already talked about the discovery of the traces of sulfur, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and carbon. Curiosity found the presence of minerals like sulfates and sulfides. This was an important discovery because it means that if life once existed, these minerals could have been utilized by the ancient microbes that may have once, or possibly do still exist. This discovery led scientists to hypothesize that if there were primitive microbes, they may have found the minerals as a source of sufficient energy by feeding on the Martian rocks. These minerals also showed that when there was liquid water on Mars, the chemical composition of it would have been fine for us as humans to drink, which is another important factor when determining how hospitable a planet is. In our number 5 spot today, we have Martian cauliflower. We are now getting closer to where we are at in our current search for life on Mars, but we're still a few years behind with a discovery made by the Spirit rover in 2008. As Spirit was searching the red planet, it found a strange shape that was sticking out of the Gusev crater. This weird little shaped thing was nicknamed cauliflower because of its strange shape and appearance, but of course it isn't even close to being actual cauliflower. Images were of course taken of this, which showed that it contained a series of mineral deposits made up of opaline silica. This was super important because on Earth, these kinds of silica deposits are often in association with microbial activity. The skepticism with this one comes because of how different Mars' current atmosphere is from Earth's, so we have to understand that this could have been caused by something as simple as wind erosion, which is a non-biological process. But just because we have to remain skeptical and question all angles doesn't mean that this doesn't point to signs of Martian bacteria. In our number 4 spot today, we have Mars past. Before we get into the most recent discoveries, just to do our due diligence, we should definitely talk about the history of Mars, because like we've talked about a bit already today, in its current state, it most definitely doesn't seem like a place where life could thrive. Currently, Mars is cold and dry and can reach temperatures of minus 140 degrees Celsius, which even as a Canadian, I can admit is a little too cold. The atmosphere of Mars is also currently far too thin to protect the planet from the ultraviolet radiation from space, which would be more than enough to kill any kind of life that we know of here on Earth. But because of all the exploration we've done throughout the years, along with some of the discoveries we've discussed today, we now know that Mars was not always like this. Mars is just as old as Earth is, which means there's been tons and tons of time for the planet to change. The lake beds we found show that the water was once flowing there, despite that not being the case currently. Astronomers say that there is reason to believe that Mars' atmosphere was once filled with carbon dioxide, which traps heat and in turn would have caused a greenhouse effect and warmed the planet to a temperature more conducive to life. Because of the age of Mars, there would have been millions, if not billions, billions of years where the planet was both warm and wet, which is the perfect combination for emerging life. When the Martian conditions turned cold and nasty, it is possible that this may have led to the extinction of the life that may have once existed, which would have left fossils behind. Or, just maybe, there is still the presence of life just under the surface of the red planet. This is why, while we know advanced civilized aliens aren't walking around on the planet, we have to continue our search. In our number 3 spot today, we have potential contamination. With all of our missions to Mars, one thing that is extremely important before the rovers take off on their long journey is decontamination. Any kind of contamination from our planet could greatly skew the results of all of the searches and experiments, so of course there are extreme processes that take place before takeoff. This doesn't mean it hasn't happened though. This is just another reason on the long list of why it is always imperative to remain skeptical. What if we found evidence of life on Mars only to later find out that it came from us? The good news is that it is highly unlikely that any organisms from Earth could survive in that kind of a harsh climate, but we certainly cannot bank on that. In our number 2 spot today, we have methane. Okay, we are back on our timeline of Martian discoveries that might point to signs of life. Now we are at a point just a few years ago in 2018 when the Curiosity rover found evidence of the presence of methane in the Martian air. It has been hypothesized from other observations from rovers and orbiters that methane may be present, but Curiosity was the first to give us the evidence we needed. This methane discovery is important because on Earth, methane is considered an indication of life, but it is volatile and doesn't last for very long because it quickly breaks down into other molecules. This of course means that there must be something producing the methane that we've been able to find. We also discovered that the methane on Mars goes up and down, which suggests to scientists that it's being produced by living organisms. This isn't, like everything else on this list, a conclusive finding to prove that life on Mars exists, but it is another reason for us to just continue. In our number 1 spot today, we have Perseverance. Okay, we are finally at our most recent exploration with the extremely cool and exciting Perseverance rover, which landed on the planet on February 18th of this year. Perseverance is set to have the largest search for life on the planet that we have ever seen, and this is due to both the past explorations and discoveries as well as technological advancements. I mean, we can now see pictures of Mars in 4K. How wild is that? One of Perseverance's main objectives is to search the Jezero crater. This crater is 28 miles wide and 1,600 feet deep and is located just a bit north of the Martian equator. This crater is obviously huge but very important in our search because it is thought to have once housed a lake that would have dried up around 3.5 billion years ago. This has led it to be basically a perfect spot for the rover to look for ancient signs of life and microorganisms that may have once lived in the water. Not only will Perseverance conduct its own experiments, but it will also store samples of rocks for its future return mission to Earth. While this hasn't yet provided us with any signs that may point to life, the potential future findings are very exciting.